They called it the war no logic could map. On the first day, Vulcan tacticians fed 10 million variables into their models and received one immaculate answer: retreat. On the second day, a human lieutenant sketched a plan on the back of a ration wrapper, swore at the odds, and dragged 3 worlds back from the brink. That's where the story splits, between what should have happened and what humanity insisted would happen instead. The enemy never announced itself. Signals arrived like ghosts. Their ships bore no windows or flags. Their weapons didn't strike so much as subtract. Corridors and sometimes people were there, and then they weren't. Every Vulcan attempt to model their intentions collapsed into paradox, so the scholars named them the uncounted. Councils composed immaculate strategies that preserved dignity while conceding systems one by one. Probability demanded endurance. Probability had never met a human captain. Starfleet was a patchwork then, hulls borrowed from old wars, crews stitched together by hope more than protocol. On the bridge of the battered horizon, Captain Mira Salas watched the uncounted unspool another colony into silence and said a sentence no Vulcan would commit to record. "I don't accept the premise." She turned to her navigator, a young Vulcan named Terrell who believed in proofs, and asked the most human question in the galaxy. "What if we try the thing that shouldn't work?" "Captain, the probability approaches 0, Terrell said. "0 is where I start," Mira answered and smiled like a dare. Their plan violated every discipline. Instead of forming a classic shield wall, the horizon scattered its echo beacons into hundreds of decoys that pulsed with mismatched heartbeats. Chaotic, embarrassing, alive. Endorian skippers took those stuttering signals and charged into places no sane doctrine would allow. Tellarite cruisers agreed to play decoy in a pattern that changed every 6 minutes, according to a children's rhyme. The uncounted's targeting lattice, tuned for elegance, choked on improvisation. The first victory tasted like disbelief, and analysts filed it under weather. But a storm that refuses to pass becomes climate. Human improvisation spread through the fleet like a benign fever, raising temperatures, quickening pulses, inviting risk where caution had ruled for centuries. When the uncounted fractured a moon to weaponize its tides, humans lured them through the rubble and used that pull like a sling. When the enemy adapted, humans changed the game again, salting logic with noise, mathematics with jazz, certainty with audacity. Cost still counted its dead. There was a night, long, green, and silent, when the horizon limped behind the Vulcan flagship scow after a subspace rupture tore vessels into sketches of themselves. The wounded whispered around them. Instruments glowed like tired stars. Mira kept her voice level so grief wouldn't drown the room. "If courage were logical," she said at last, "it would have evolved on Vulcan first." Terrell considered, a thin fracture of humor brightening her eyes. "Perhaps it did," she said. "Perhaps we entrusted it to those who use it rashly, so the rest of us would not have to." "Because you taught us not to panic when the numbers look bad," Mira said. "And we taught you that sometimes the numbers are just shy." Thus ended the war no logic could map, and thus began the reason Vulcans stepped aside, not because they were lesser, but because they were wise enough to let the loudest dreamers set the pace.